Oh, hey there! I've been trying to get this video done for months now, what with family crises and mechanical breakdowns. I just haven't had a chance to get it finished, but we're going to try again today. I have taken various bits of footage a few months ago, some with Mrs. V, so I might throw some of that in as well. So on that last little look around Auckland, around the foreshore, we're around the original shoreline of Auckland over by the CBD, and we finished up right down there behind us on Tamaki Drive. When I did that first video looking at my hometown here, Auckland, we followed the original shoreline through the central business district over here, and we ended up just around the corner over here on Tamaki Drive. So I thought today take a ride along the length of Tamaki Drive out towards the eastern suburbs, and down there's some old steam trains. Here's a look at these old steam locos. Apparently they're owned by Mainline Steam, a heritage outfit. And they got kicked out of their premises around the corner. They were parked up here, so here it sits until they figure out how they're going to get it to their new premises, which is way out in the countryside somewhere. They've never actually operated in New Zealand. They have come from South Africa. The actual loading on them is too heavy for our main line, so they've got to figure out what they're going to do with them. And in the meantime, they had to move from out of the central city, so they just stored these here for a few months. That was about 3 years ago. These things happen on the railways. So let's carry on. So in that video, Auckland foreshore for shore, we came around here from the left to our right onto the start of Tamaki Drive. So down to the left is Quay Street and the central business district. Straight in front of us, obviously, the port, and over to the right is where we just were up on that lookout. Just up here on the left hand side is what we now call Mechanics Bay, and these days it's the home for the coastguard, which is a search and rescue organisation and a voluntary organisation within New Zealand. I took some footage over there with Mrs. V. I'll throw that in as well. So we're at the end of the breakwater by the Marine Rescue Centre in what's now called Mechanics Bay, and we've got the harbour behind us now.
Coastguard going out.
The coastguard boat going out. Going off to do their thing. Looking out across the harbour to the suburb of Devonport and the two volcanic cones over there, North Head and Mount Victoria. We just passed through Judges Bay, and in Judges Bay is the Parnell Baths and that new footbridge up there, which Mrs. V and I went up, so there'll be a bit of footage from that. So we're up the top of the footbridge over Tamaki Drive, right beside Judges Bay and the Parnell Pools, which were built in the 50s in Art Deco style, revamped in the 70s apparently, and they are saltwater swimming pools. And there's a beauty of the nation. Hello. Hello. And Hobson Bay. And Tamaki Drive takes us through Hobson Bay, out to the right, named after Captain William Hobson, the man who founded Auckland. He was first Lieutenant Governor. Initially he was under the auspices of the Governor of New South Wales at the time. He arrived here in 1840, arranged for the signing of the Treaty of Waitangi, which is a treaty between the Maori people and the British Crown, and then he was made Governor of New Zealand when New Zealand became basically a colony of England. Captain Hobson didn't actually last very long. He was quite ill even at the time of the signing of the Treaty of Waitangi. In fact, when he came down here to Auckland from the Bay of Islands and arranged for the signing with the local Maori tribe, he suffered a stroke and had to be taken back up to the Bay of Islands to recuperate. He did recover from that first stroke, but he died a couple of years later. So we're just taking a quick stop here, looking out over Hobson Bay. Just thought I'd have a quick look at the last little bit of the old sewage pipe down here. And that's it, the last remaining piece. They've left it here as a sort of a memorial. It used to shoot straight across the bay underneath the railway embankment there, and then around, and ended up going into the shore somewhere over there. And it's been replaced by a huge tunnel. Originally this sewage pipe used to take the sewage that direction, and then in later years it was used to pump the sewage in the opposite direction and out to the sewage treatment plant out at Mangere. And of course, as the city's grown, that pipe was nowhere near big enough, and so they replaced it with that great big tunnel. It's big enough apparently, if you didn't have it full of poo, you could drive a car through it. Let's move on. These boat sheds here are considered to be historic buildings now. They've been around since the early 1900s. Captain William Hobson had quite a bit of political problems. People had been saying that he should be recalled to England. He passed away before that happened. The Tamaki Drive is 8 kilometres long along the foreshore, connects the central business district to the eastern suburb. Before this road was built in the 1920s, it was quite an arduous trip to get from Auckland itself out to the eastern suburbs, so these were fairly isolated bays. And right now we're just coming into Okahu Bay. The people of the Ngāti Whātua tribe still remain here in this area, and they have guardianship over the land. They are the tangata whenua, the people of the land. Right up until the 1950s, their village was over here to the right, and in the 1950s, the government of the day built state houses up on the hill straight in front of us and moved the whole tribe up into those state houses, thinking they were doing a great thing. But of course it was done under coercion, so they, even to this day, people of the tribe call that little suburb up there Boot Hill, because they were booted up the hill. That last little bit of sewage pipe that we had a look at before, it actually ended up right here, all the way along here underneath the road. There's old sewage holding tanks. So the sewage was brought here, allowed to settle, so all the solid bits floated down, sunk down to the bottom, and then it was discharged out into the harbour. So this is old sewage tanks underneath, and has since become a very famous tourist attraction, because underwater diver and explorer Kelly Tarleton set up an underwater aquarium in those holding tanks, one of the most successful tourist attractions in Auckland, and the first in the world apparently to use the technology of an acrylic tunnel that you go through and see all the fish swimming around right above your head. Directly in front of us there we've got Bastion Point, so named because there was a fort established there when the Europeans first arrived to protect the harbour mouth. We're up on top of Bastion Point, looking at the Waitemata Harbour, Rangitoto Island, and there's a few kites flying today. And this is Matariki, the Maori New Year, so this is a special celebration. We can see some remnants from World War II. There's pillboxes they use for guarding the entrance up to the harbour. That brings us round toward Kohimaramara. Another one of those pillboxes just there. Across the Waitemata Harbour, sparkling waters, that translates to mean. And Rangitoto Island straight across there. Rangitoto means red sky. The theory was that the Maori people saw that erupting, but geologists tell us that it actually erupted quite a long time before the Maori people arrived. The name Rangitoto actually refers to a battle. Like most Maori names, the translation is simpler than the real meaning. So this is Mission Bay, and it's called Mission Bay because the first mission in Auckland was established out here. In those early days before Tamaki Drive was built, it was considered the breadbasket of Auckland because the farms in this area all grew things like wheat, and lots of produce went into town from here. Now it's a very upmarket suburb, and it was also where the Wright brothers first started flying seaplanes in 1918, round about that time, and they established a flying school, and they trained over 100 pilots for World War I from here in Mission Bay. And seaplanes were a major part of New Zealand's transport for a long time. Back at the start of Tamaki Drive, seaplanes were operating from that area. Right up until about 1989, there was still a company operating some small seaplanes that took tourists for flights and things. So now into Kohimaramara. Very popular inner city beach, great place for swimming in the summer. Used to come down here often with the kids when they were smaller. Very safe beach for swimming, lovely place. Right now it's the beginning of our summer. What's today? Today's Monday, so there's not a lot of people out on the beach, but on the weekends from here on through summer it'll be absolutely jam-packed down here. The Maori name for Auckland is Tamaki Makaurau. The simple translation is the spouse contested by 100 lovers, and that does show that Auckland was very much a sought after area by the Maori people. There was a lot of battles between the various tribes to gain dominance over this area, because there are two large harbours. There's the Waitemata that we've got here, and the Manukau on the western side, and Auckland's built on a narrow isthmus of land between the two harbours, and so it's an excellent place for seafood, especially from the harbours. So there was a lot of battles, and by the time Europeans arrived, basically the area had been abandoned by the Maori people. There was only a couple of villages left, because every time there was a large battle, the Maori people would abandon the area of the battle. It would become tapu, or sacred. But the name Tamaki Makaurau actually refers to a great chief by the name of Tamaki, and various battles, and it is a shortened version of the true name. We're in St Heliers now, and this is the end of Tamaki Drive, and from here we'll go up the road here a little bit, but that's Tamaki Drive, 8 kilometres from the central business district to where we are now in St Heliers, and a nice place to live if you can afford it. Multi-million-dollar houses these days, of course. Down at the bottom of these cliffs, I'm not going to go down there, but there's a bay just here called Ladies Bay, and a little bit further along is one called Gentleman's Bay. And as the name suggests, back in the old days the ladies used to go down there for a swim, and the gentlemen down here. So while Captain Hobson was the man the European that founded Auckland, there was another man here before Hobson, a European, and his name was John Logan Campbell. He and his business partner actually took possession, or bought, that island, that green island that you can see out there. It's called Brown's Island. It's named after Logan Campbell's business partner. They farmed that for 2 or 3 years before Hobson arrived. They had heard rumours that Auckland was going to be made the capital, and so they negotiated with the Maori tribe that had possession of that island, and they farmed on it. Logan Campbell became known as the father of Auckland. And that's another story.